Welcome once again to the Time Out podcast. This is episode number 10. Is it number 10 or 11? I think you're already at 11, Mike.
Mhm.
Yes, so this is episode number 11, and it's good to be back here. I think it's been a couple of sporting weekends and sporting action coming back on our screens, coming back into live activities, and what a couple of weeks it has been. I start with the big one. The return of the Safari Nani back to the WRC circuit. Wow, what a weekend, Wambo.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, for it to be back as part of WRC after 19 years was good. It's a good indictment of the way the World Rally Championship and the FIA are looking at Kenya. And I mean, even in its really sedate form, it still was a car killer.
Yeah, interestingly enough, for some of us who are big fans, I was able to make a couple of stages. I made it to the spectator stage in Kasarani, and it was crazy numbers because they were saying, I think by the close of day at Kasarani, they had over 100,000 fans.
Wow.
And then on
By the
Friday,
close of
we
the
made
Kasarani.
by close of day at Kasarani, they had over 100,000 fans. The security apparatus there was overwhelmed. I can confess that.
Yes.
Then the chaos now moved from Nairobi to Naivasha, and I was part of that chaos, at least for the Friday evening and Saturday.
Yep.
And what a weekend of action! I mean, we had crazy stuff going down there. People who had camped there for about 4 or 5 days. People still streaming in. I think we also the snapshots or the videos on social media. The traffic because even us at some point we had to stop our cars and just walk like 4 kilometers to the spectator stage. But it was a weekend that I think Kenyans have been longing for this for the last 18 or 19 years, and this was quite, as you say, an indictment to show um, that the rally is back on the scene. Today, I received some interesting numbers. Let me just share with you here. Um, Maybe we can hear your comments of what maybe you are reading on online as you are in your armchair.
Well, of course, it was good to follow the rally from my armchair bit, and for me, basically, I was plugged into the feed from WRC, and I mean, just looking at the competition, the fact that even going into the final day, Sebastian Ogier didn't sit in the lead, and it took a traditional safari moment, the leader retiring from the race, to actually create an opportunity for the Frenchman to win. Remember, that's what used to happen in the safaris of old, and even like I said, in its sedate form, I mean, it's no longer the 3,000, 4,000 kilometer car breaker that it was, but still proving to be quite a challenge. And you can see even the latter day participants obviously enthralled by it and looking forward to participating in it. So those are the kind of comments that I took from watching it online. Mostly the romanticism of the Safari Rally.
Interesting that Sebastian Ogier came out of semi-retirement and said that because of the Safari coming back onto the WRC, he decided to come back and say, "This is one I have never ticked off my box," and he decided to make it back here. And interestingly, that he was also able to come back with a works team, the Toyota Gazoo Yaris, and this is what he won the race with. And also, I think even on the first day, he had an issue with the car, and guys were almost saying that too bad that he might be cut off. But I think, as you say, each day had its own challenges. At some point, we thought it was a different driver. We even thought the Japanese would take this, but Sebastian came up tops. So I had some interesting numbers, as I was saying. So reading from the World WRC promoter, they say that the WRC Safari Rally in 2021 registered the highest Facebook impressions in the series in the 53 years history. The WhatsApp, Instagram impressions plus tech media exceeded 120 million. Um, the Safari figures will breach the 1 billion figure for WRC, which has been struggling for quite some time. All Safari Info team scored 500% rise in all their platforms. Their YouTube
Wow.
recorded their YouTube recorded over 16 million viewers. Um, the aerial shots that we had with the helicopter, they had over 16 million viewers. And when Tej crashed, remember Tej? He
Yes,
crashed, and
yes.
there are over 1.2 million viewers for that particular clip. And in total, Nation were able to score over 2 million hits on their website just because of covering the Safari Rally. So it just
Definitely. I mean, yeah, even after 19 years, it shows you that the myths of the Safari Rally have been entrenched in Kenyan culture, in Kenyan psyche, and
yes,
I mean, it's good to have it back. I think now for us, what we need to do as a country is maintain it. Work towards following all the protocols, all the procedures, in order to keep it here. I mean, pulling it off, especially in times of COVID, is massive. So you can imagine how it would have been in normal times.
yeah. Well, the FIA seems to have been impressed, and they gave us a clean sheet. And I think the WRC, the rally will be included in the next 4 years until 2026. So that I think it's a good place to start from, and going forward, then let's hope the government and also private sponsors are able to keep this and maintain and even exceed what numbers we have seen this year. Moving on swiftly, we go to their Bartes Cup. I think you have been a follower, if not a mainstay on this for the last couple of weekends. Give us a brief on the same.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's been quite absorbing because we ended up doing three tournaments in one: Bartes Cup, the Rugby Africa Women's Cup, and the Rugby Africa Cup. At some point, we didn't know if the tournament was going to happen because it's only Senegal who are confirmed to travel to Nairobi. Madagascar, their airspace was closed. And Namibia had to pull out because they had 12 positive cases in their team just before traveling to Nairobi. So, I mean, when we were playing the first game on Saturday, 26th June, we were like, okay, let's wait and see. Meanwhile, frantic efforts were happening behind the scenes between Rugby Africa, Kenya Rugby, and the Madagascar government. Thankfully, the Madagascar government chartered a flight because their men's team was also going to play the Rugby Africa senior competition in Cote d'Ivoire. So getting out of Madagascar was the challenge, but they chartered a flight and they figured, since the women's team is also there, let's also have the postponed Rugby Africa women's competition also take place. So, I mean, that was it. So they arrived on the Wednesday after the event had started. The men's team proceeded to Cote d'Ivoire. But coming here to Nairobi, I mean, a strong show by the junior Marquis. They ran Kenya close in that final on Sunday. I mean,
Mhm.
were it not for that missed conversion, we would have been talking a different tale here about Madagascar upsetting Kenya to become the Africa Under-20 champions. For the women, we saw what they did. Of course, they came with a very experienced team to Nairobi, and this was a good test for the Kenya Lionesses. There's something that probably many do not know: the fact that for the first time, the Kenya women's national 15s team has played without its seventh players, all 12 of them. So, I mean, missing probably your entire starting lineup or away in Tokyo is good, I think, especially with the repechage qualifier coming up against Colombia in August. I think it was a good run out for the Lionesses in terms of just knowing what it takes to play against that, but not taking anything away from Madagascar's women. They showed the pedigree they have, and they have their outside center, the captain as well. She's called Veronique. She was an absolute masterstroke for the Lady Marquis in both games, and she actually won the series for the Madagascar ladies. And I think for them, it's a good thing. And then there was also one more interesting thing in the Madagascar squad. There was a Margaret and daughter combination,
Whoa,
which
whoa.
is something rare that you find.
Yeah,
Yes, they're both playing in
that's
the forwards for
unusual.
the Madagascar. So
Mhm. Very interesting
yeah,
perspective.
so I mean, those are some of the romantic stories. Now let's go to the Rugby Africa
Okay.
Cup.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, now in the Rugby Africa Cup, Senegal came prepared to Nairobi. They shocked the Simbas 2019 in the opening game. They then made short work of Zambia 25 to qualify for next year's Rugby Africa Cup, which you all know is a big one because it serves as the World Cup qualifiers. Now, what's going to happen next year? It's 3 matches, quarters, semis, finals, and they'll be played in one venue. So it boils
Wow.
down to those 3 games. But
Wow.
having said that, the Senegalese were prepared. Of their traveling squad of players, of the 25 players they came with to Nairobi,
Hmm.
17 are based in France. And
Hmm.
they don't necessarily play in the top divisions, but they have enough skill in terms of game management and everything. And they knew Nairobi is at high altitude. They basically played the way the Arabs come to play their football here. Slowed it down, intimidated the Kenyans,
Yeah.
and the Kenyans didn't have the street smartness in that particular game. Uh,
Hmm.
Obviously, the Senegalese made light work of Zambia, and when Kenya now met Zambia, it was do or die, and you could see already pumping in 32 points in the first half. You could see their intent in that particular game. But I do believe for the Kenyans and for Paul Odera, it was a slow start probably because of inactivity, but a few revelations for me. Paul Odera has always been
Yeah.
a radical thinker. He always goes against the grain, bringing in a lot of his under 20 players from 2019, and they're coming into the game. But then also the Fijian matches for Kenya has been massive. A total of 32 points in those 2 matches. So I think those are the that was the
Okay.
matches
I don't know whether it's my sound or it's your sound. You're cutting off.
Nairobi, and wondering how organizing committee pulled goes to show that there's a lot in terms of organizing happening, and that we're able to pull them off is well and good.
Okay. Sorry, I think at some point the connection was a bit rough, so I could only hear bits and pieces.
Are
Um,
you okay?
I think it's better now. Thanks, I think, for
Ah,
those was,
mm,
you know, and I think it's a good thing that we are seeing that Kenya is able to host these international tournaments and international teams, and as well as what we did with the Safari Rally. Because then I keep saying this that these efforts from our federations and associations means that Kenya can become quite the destination for sporting events and sports tourism.
yes,
If we saw the impact of those couple of weekends, then what if these situations of the pandemic are covered and we are back to near normal situations? It will be a hell of a couple of quarters. Moving on swiftly to football. The disappointing Mashemeji derby. What say you about Gor Mahia? I think you predicted it well, and yeah, I didn't even want to watch that match after the second. I just said no,
yeah.
no,
Well,
no, no.
mm, yeah, well, I was also fatigued because of being involved in the Bartes Cup, but obviously still keeping tabs on it. Got on. I mean, they had the mentality, even though the game went into into penalties. And I mean, some decisions by the AFC Leopards technical bench are baffling. You substitute your keeper who has seen you through the competition on penalties. By the way, he's been a good shot stopper. You bring in someone, and eventually you lose the shootout 4-1. And I'm in another forum where there was a lot of explanations, and I just try to say, you don't change a winning combination. This tinkering and so on and so forth isn't right. Yes, you may say that certain players are not available, but work with the available players, and continue to get the result. Because I believe even the players on the bench will know that I have to work to be positioned there. As for Gor, remember I said a champion's mentality. Even though it went down to penalties, they were not going to fluff that situation. They're going to play in the CAF Confederations Cup next year. I think for them now it's to start planning logistics, because I think year in, year out, we've seen how they struggle with logistics. And the acting CEO of Gor Mahia is a good friend of mine, and we exchange banter but also talk. And obviously, he is looking to do things a lot differently this time round, and we just hope that the rest of the organization can back him up. As for the final, a lot of comments, especially from the AFC Leopards coach, about the better team losing. But like I always say, take your chances and win. For me, this story of the better team losing, it's good, it's romantic. I think it's just something to massage your ego. But at the end of the day, there has to be a winner and a loser.
Interesting. I'll stick to that and maybe just talk about the under 23 team, the emerging stars. The squad has been named for Sekafa coming up in Ethiopia. What do you think? I think we're in an interesting group with South Sudan and what's the third country?
And Djibouti. Yeah.
And Djibouti.
I think, yeah. Well, I honestly think the team is good enough to make the semis, but now from there it's a challenge, because you see we have players, yes, who are under 23, but who have not gone through any structured development. They just happen to be underage and playing in the big league. So you see the transition towards elite national team level hasn't really been something that has been ingrained in them. And we will probably see the likes of Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo also taking part in this competition. And as we have already seen, these are teams with some sort of development. And if we go beyond the semis, which is actually the final, then well and good. Because the way the format of the competition is that the 3 pool winners and the best runner-up make it to the semis. But now from there, I think we're on our own. Remember a few years ago, they must have been the under-20s, I can't remember. But they went all the way to the final and were hammered. Was it 5-0 by Uganda? And that young Ugandan squad has a number of players who are now making the roads into Europe. So I mean, we have to be honest with our player development. It'll be a feel-good tournament for us. Honestly, getting to the semis is expected. But now from there, if we can come back with that competition's overall prize, now that should be a foundation to start building going forward.
I didn't hear you speak about the Ethiopians who are hosting it, and they're always the dark horses of such tournaments. Hey, the connection okay? You're still on? Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've frozen again.
I seem to have lost you.
Yeah, I think my connection is okay. I'm seeing all my gadgets are okay.
Here we are. We're back.
Yeah.
So what were we saying? We were saying about Ethiopia. Let's see, because these are teams who play some very technical football. It's very. I've known for the longest time the Ethiopians gifted on their feet and very deft football. They're not the biggest physically. They like to get the ball to work for them. And I mean, at a younger age, they're a lot more uninhibited. So let's just see how that goes.
Okay. And taking things intercontinental. something was coming home. I think they didn't have enough pasta. Well, what a tournament in the Euros.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah,
started with the
it has
Germans,
been.
then gave up for the
Yeah.
Germans.
Mm. Yeah, it
And
has been
keep
an exciting Euros. Yeah, it has been an exciting Euros, but I think that final was as open as it would be, even though my money was on Italy because of the fact that Roberto
Mhm.
Mancini is a much more astute tactician than Gareth Southgate, and in his astuteness,
Mhm.
he had a lot of experience on his squad, especially his central
Mhm.
defensive pairing, which reminds me of the days of
Mhm.
Costa Curta and Maldini.
Mhm.
Basically, this was reminiscent of the Italian of old. For England, I'll not fault them at all. Penalties is obviously a lottery. What I can say is that Gareth Southgate, for me, has gone against the grain, not like many other English managers. He has
Mhm.
a relatively young squad. He's gone for a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience as well. And I remember watching Sky News just before England went to the final, and there was an interview with Jamie Redknapp, who was part of that squad that lost in the semis when they hosted it in 2000 in 1996. And
Mhm.
what he said that Gareth Southgate was one of the most sensible players on the team. The guy with his head on his shoulders, his calm and collectiveness. And I think that the fact that he doesn't shout at his players, he doesn't push them, in the same way that Mourinho does, is working because these are young players and he's able to get them to express themselves because they don't feel pressured and they're actually playing for the manager. But at the end of the day, it was the astuteness of Roberto Mancini that was going to prove to be the difference.
Yeah, I think it's also the same for me after watching them beat Spain in the semis. Especially the first goal they scored against Spain. Spain had scored. No, I think it was the Italians who scored first, and that goal, the counter, it moved from one end to the next in three, I think, four moves, and they were bang. The Italians are not known for being very attacking, attack minded, but for that particular goal, I gave them, all credit and said these guys get to the final, they are going to win this tournament. Well, as you say, it was a penalty, kick out, but as we say, these teams have already gone to that level and they have prepared themselves psychologically. Let's cross over to South America, where another first happened. Messi finally winning something with Argentina. My,
Yeah. I think, yeah, you've got to be happy for Lionel Messi and the fact that he did not win the Copa America against Chile or Bolivia, but against
Mhm.
Brazil. For
Yes.
me, that adds a lot more credence to the title. And I mean, with the World Cup coming up next year, Argentina can dare to dream. Sometimes you just need this kind of momentum. Remember what happened with Spain. Although theirs started with the Confederation Cup in 2010.
Mhm.
Was it a year before in
A year
2009?
before, 2000.
Yeah. Then they followed it up with the World Cup, and that's around the same time when they won the Euros. So I think sometimes it's all about just getting into that momentum and going into a good cycle. Italy, for example, let's just go back to the Euros. They were on
Mhm.
a 33 match unbeaten streak,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I mean, those are the little things you're saying. Once you gather that momentum, it's good for you. So it should be interesting. I'm actually at this point daring to put Argentina as a dark horse to end that drought since when was it again? Since 1986 when they last won
86.
it with the late Diego Maradona. All
Mhm.
because I think of that feel good factor that has emerged from this. Because I believe for this set of players as well, there's a sense of belief now that they can do it, and especially now with a re-energized Messi,
Mhm.
it should be problematic. I think he's finally cracked the code at international level. This space should be
Mhm.
interesting to watch.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere in the gossip columns today, they're saying that he might renew his contract in Barcelona, although with a huge pay cut. As you say, if they are able to get him rolling, especially also at club level, who knows? In Qatar, they'll do magic, and yeah, it will be an interesting tournament to watch in Qatar. I just hope the fatigue does not catch up with the players, as we have seen in the last two tournaments, both Copa
Yeah,
America and US. The fatigue on the players was just, with those breaks, those players would have just collapsed in the field, and we saw what happened to Ericsson.
definitely.
Okay, moving on swiftly to the Olympics. Team Kenya departs for Tokyo. What do you think of our chances, especially in the team sports? We have rugby, we have volleyball, we have both, including beach volleyball. I think those are the three team sports that we have. What do we have any
Yeah.
chances? Any chances?
Um, Honestly speaking, looking at the pools, particularly in rugby, the Kenyans have been thrown in the deep end, both in the men's and women's competition. In the men's competition, Kenya is with Ireland, the USA, and South Africa. And we've seen Ireland, it has been a deliberate investment for them to, first of all, return to the Sevens World Series and then qualify for the Olympics. For the USA, we all know how they are driven as well. South Africa, who dares question their supremacy? Silver medalists in 2016 in Rio. It's a difficult pool, and I would like to say that the chances. I mean, asking for a medal would be, asking for too much. But of course, being patriotic, you back your team up, and if they go all the way, well and good. Same thing for the Lionesses in their pool. They are with Russia, with Great Britain, and New Zealand. I think for them, it's all about improving their performances. Last time they were ranked 11th out of 12th overall. A different squad right now for the Lionesses, 3 survivors from the squad that went to Rio in 2016, a lot of young players. I think if they can just go and prove themselves out there, well and good. I'm really expecting nothing from them. As for the volleyballers, both the beach volleyballers and the ones who play on the court, yes, there've been improved trainings, improved preparations as well. So I think overall, it's just to look for improved results all around.
Okay. And still on the on the Olympics, we saw the national team unveiled as they were being given the flag last week, and there was a bit of controversy, I think, with the kicking, and I've been seeing a lot of conversations. What do you think? What's your opinion of what we are wearing to the Tokyo Games?
Well, there's different kits there. I saw the one from Safaricom, which for me was a fail. I think the one that had a bit of the Masai print and then suddenly it's black at the top. I'm not a fashion designer, but at least I know how to look good, and and I think like for that one, how about just having it as a Masai print for the jacket and probably have the athletes kitted in black, because black would be like something that tones it down. The travel kit from EABL was on point. The black with some spots on it.
Black.
I think it looked good. Yeah, it had some sort of print. As for the playing kit, I think it's good. The honeycomb design. I think especially looking like I think it's good. People of course have different opinions, but once, and I think it's also because of the quality of images that you've seen, but I'm sure once we see it on high definition TV and when all the action photos come in, we definitely will have different opinions to the kit. So that is as much as I'll talk about the kit, because they're fashion experts and I'm not one of them.
Okay. I'll still stick again to the Olympics. I think our good friend Ferdinand Omanyala and his colleague
Yes.
were kitted by Safaricom, and they got, I think, sponsorship worth $1 million for their shoes, and just to prepare for the sprints. What are our chances again? I'm not. I'm daring to dream. I'm daring to see something different. What do you think about our chances in Tokyo?
Same. I dare to dream because Omanyala has put in some good times. Marco Tieno has also put in some good times. Kenya has pedigree in the sprints. It's just that we have not invested in the sprints in the past. And if they can go beyond the first round and better the performance of Donald Onchiri from 1996, that for me will be a win. I think already the fact that we have two sprinters in the 100 meters is already something big. This is something that has never happened in the history of Kenyan sport. So they're already groundbreaking there. Omanyala, we know, has unofficially dipped below 10 seconds. The conditions in Tokyo at this time of year should be perfect. It's anybody's race. He's got a good set of coaches, especially now that he'll be under the hands of Geoffrey Kimani, who is a man I revere so much. He's a former sprinter, former conditioning coach for the 7s and 15s national teams. He's dealt with that. He's dealt with Harambee Stars, Tusker, Mathare United. But at the time when the likes of Collins Injera, Humphrey Kayange were tearing up the crowds on the World Rugby 7 circuit, it was through his preparation. And he always says that Kenya has the capacity. It just takes the organization, because our athletes, even in other sports, could make decent sprinters, but it's a cash-intensive discipline. I just do hope that, for me, as far as they go, that's good.
And I think we started it with the 400 meters goals in the World Championships. We sort of got it together with the sprints. I don't know what happened at some point. I think after the loss of, what's his name, the one who passed away a couple of years back.
That was
sort of
Samson
dipped again. Samson, but there's also another recent
guy
who was
Nicholas Bett. There was Nicholas Bett in the sprint hurdles.
Yes. I think we had, we're getting closer to that between the 400 now back to 200s and 100s. But let's see what Mark and Ferdinand will do in Tokyo. But, as I said, they're there to dream. Maybe they'll make it to the final, or, that final race. Anything goes after that. What's your, medal count for us in Tokyo, maybe to wrap it up?
Oh, medal count. I'd probably give it Faith Kipyegon. I expect a medal from her. We saw her register personal best in Monaco a few days ago. That's one. Two, I'm not too convinced about the steeplechase, but I still expect a medal there, not necessarily gold. The marathon, that one is a sure bet. It's a sure bet. Both men and women. Both men and women. I think those are sure bets. I think the Kenyans are. It will be an absolute disaster if they do not medal. So my medal count overall, probably looking at about 10 medals. Probably 2 gold, 3 if we throw in the steeplechase. Another 3 silver and another 3 bronze. Timothy Cheriot, by the way, has been belatedly included in the squad to Tokyo. He could spring a surprise in the 1500 meters. No, he couldn't spring a surprise, but he could actually win it because he is the favorite, especially after he also ran a personal best in Monaco last week. So let me add that to be a fourth medal, and probably 12, 13, 14 medals overall for Kenya.
Okay. I think we'll have this in next 2 weeks and we'll review what we have just talked about. But I also, keep it close to you, maybe 4 gold, 3 silver and 3 gold. 4 gold, 3 silver and 3 bronze.
Yeah.
Okay, but most likely all from athletics. Okay. Now we move to the summary of our action today. The countdown, I think, is on the Olympic Games. It start next week on the 23rd. This is a 2-week, multi-sport event. I think Tokyo have been trying to, work around, crowd management, getting athletes, tested all the time, and also just keep their distancing. What do you think will be, the possibilities of this being a successful one? Tokyo hosting the Olympics for the second time.
I think where we are, it's all systems go. So I think just for the Olympics to happen in this particular time, remember we've been bogged down by by COVID-19, and it continues to bog people down. I think the fact that it just happening is a success, and for me, it's a display of human resilience. So that is my opinion. That's what I choose to see from the Tokyo Olympics happening. It very nearly didn't happen, and I believe that if by April, decisions had not been made, then it was going to be cancelled. But now heading into the last 90 days, which are actually coming to a close, definitely it was going to happen. Of course, radical things had to be done, like the declaration now that there'll be no fans. I don't know if you've also seen the latest that there'll be no medal presentation. The athletes will actually pick up their own medals. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about sport. It's about the competition. So, in that opinion, in that view, the organizers of Tokyo 2020 deserve a lot of credit because they've worked under very extreme circumstances. So, I mean, just for the games to take off, that's a success.
Yeah. And I think as you called, everything that kicks off, and as we've said even in the Euros, once the action kicks off on the stadiums or in the field, you know, it becomes something totally different. And I think that's what will happen in Tokyo. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the fans in there. But then, once the athletes run, they get into the action in the pools and the different matches and games. Well, it will be a couple of weeks to look out. Okay, as we bring this to an end, what's your crystal ball telling you? Or do I start with my crystal ball?
My crystal ball. I saw some exciting talent during the Rugby Africa championships combined.
Hmm.
And I'll be biased because, fine, I was doing the commentary, and there's the Kenyan player Dominic Coulson.
Hmm.
He's barely 20, but
Hmm.
he's playing with the composure of a 28, 29-year-old. He came in as a substitute against Senegal at inside center, and he did everything positive tackles, positive carrying of the ball. He started the game against Zambia, and again just continued with an authoritative display. That he's only on his third cap, that he's only 20. I think for me means that the future of Kenyan rugby is bright, and in the hands of players like Dominic Coulson, then there's a lot to look forward to.
Okay.
That's what I look. That's the person I've picked from my crystal ball.
Me, I'll go back to the rally. We saw some interesting action from the young drivers, the three young drivers sponsored by Safaricom, but the one who stood out for me was Jeremy Wahome. He was driving for the first time in a rally car, and especially in this format. He finished 16th overall, but he won in his class, which was, as you say, it's out of this world. Then he's given a works team and he's able to test his car in the next couple of years. Who knows? We could be talking about a Kenyan winning the Safari Rally, or even a black Kenyan for the first time winning the Safari Rally in the next couple of years. Yeah. Okay, this has been your team, myself, Richard Onjohi, and Michael Kwambo, bringing you the Time Out podcast. And I think this is it, Mike. It's been some interesting conversations. I think as we are getting back into the heat of the moments and into the heat of the action, we'll have a couple more sessions. What do you say?
Definitely, it's great to see sports activity picking up locally and internationally. Like I get encouraged. Of course, we've accepted now that COVID-19 is here with us, and I mean, we still need to mask up, observe all the protocols, and so on and so forth. But I think at this point in time, it's time for us to pick ourselves up, and sport is actually leading the way.
Mhm.
So with that, there's a lot more to talk about, and I think it's also a lot more encouraging because sport is very therapeutic, and once we have all these activities out there, it's good to talk about them. It's also good to follow, have the emotions, and I mean, we definitely will be back here to share and exchange a lot more ideas.
Surely. I'll give you what I tried doing on Sunday because there was the two finals, the Copa America final and the Euro. So I had to divide and say, okay, which one do I sacrifice? Which one do I take? And as you say, enough sport in action coming up in the end of July, also in August with the Olympics and all. But sure, we'll be back here and give you as much coverage as possible. Interesting back in the scenes conversations. But for now, it's time out from me.
And it's a timeout from me too.
Kwaherini, asante.